It is February 28th, 2026. Most of the Middle East is still asleep. Then, the sky above Tehran turns white. The United States and Israel launch a surprise attack on Iran, hitting military sites, government buildings, and in a move that shocks the world, killing Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei, along with several of his top officials. The man who had ruled Iran with an iron fist for over 3 decades gone overnight. Now, when you kill the leader of a country that has been preparing for war with you for 40 years, you should probably expect a response. And Iran responds. Missiles and drones begin raining across the region, hitting US military bases, embassies, and oil infrastructure from Iraq to the Gulf states. The fires are visible from space. Alarms are going off at American bases across 5 countries at the same time. But Iran's most powerful move isn't a missile, it's a decision. They close a door. There is a strip of water between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. At its narrowest point, it's only about 21 miles wide. It doesn't look like much on a map, but roughly a quarter of all the oil shipped by sea passes through this single stretch of water every single day. Saudi oil, Iraqi oil, Kuwaiti oil, all of it funnels through here on its way to Asia, Europe, and the rest of the world. This is the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran just shut it down. Fuel shortages start appearing in parts of Asia almost immediately. Shipping companies reroute their entire fleets thousands of miles around Africa. Flights across the middle are disrupted. The global economy starts to wobble east. Think about that for a second. One country, one narrow stretch of water, and suddenly the whole world feels it at the gas pump. The United States cannot let this stand, so they hit back, striking Iranian ships and drones in the strait, trying to force it back open. Israel assassinated Iran's top naval commander, the man personally running the blockade. Still, the strait stays shut. After over 5 weeks of fighting, both sides agree to a ceasefire in early April. Diplomats breathe again. Oil prices dip. The deal is supposed to include Iran reopening the strait. Iran doesn't reopen the strait. Talks in Pakistan collapse on April 12th with no agreement. The next day, the United States announces its own naval blockade. The US Navy will now stop every single ship trying to enter or leave Iranian ports. 2 blockades, one strait, and a standoff that is about to get very physical. Here is how the American blockade works. The US positions over 10,000 military personnel, more than a dozen warships, and dozens of aircraft across the region. If you are a ship heading to or from an Iranian port, you will be stopped. You will be told to turn around. And if you don't turn around, the consequences are no longer theoretical. For the first few days, every ship turns around. 23 vessels are redirected without incident. No shots fired, no boarding parties. The blockade works through sheer intimidation. Nobody wants to test what happens if they don't listen. Nobody. That is until the Tosca. The Tosca is a massive Iranian container ship, nearly 300 meters long, only slightly shorter than a US aircraft carrier. Built in 2008, it has sailed the world's shipping lanes for nearly 20 years. But this is not your ordinary cargo ship with an ordinary crew making an ordinary run. The company that owns the Tosca has been under US sanctions since 2012. The ship itself was added to the sanction list in 2018, accused of helping Iran move goods it was legally banned from receiving. And the captain on this voyage? A man named Bakhtiar Hossein Zadeh, a member of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, the same force that has been attacking ships in the Strait, planting mines, and running Iran's shadow military networks for decades. This is not a shipping captain. This is a soldier driving a ship. So, where is the Tosca coming from? And what is it carrying? The ship had loaded containers at a port in southern China, a port that experts specifically associate with a chemical called sodium perchlorate. Sodium perchlorate is used to make solid rocket fuel. From there, it made a stop in Malaysia to pick up more cargo. Then it turns toward Iran. Intelligence analysts believe the Tosca is carrying what the military calls dual use materials, metals, pipes, electronic components, things that look civilian on paper but can be used to build weapons. A sanctioned ship, a Revolutionary Guard captain, cargo linked to rocket fuel production, all of it heading straight through an active American blockade. The Tosca doesn't slow down. April 19th, 2026, the Arabian Sea. The USS Spruance is a guided missile destroyer, one of the most powerful surface warships in the US Navy. Loaded with missiles, torpedoes, and a large deck gun that can hit targets 15 miles away. It spots the Tosca moving at full speed towards the blockade line. The Spruance moves to intercept, gets on the radio, turn around. The Tosca keeps going. For 6 straight hours, American forces issue warning after warning. Every time the same message. You are violating the blockade. Turn back now. Other ships in the area can hear these warnings. Captains all across the Arabian Sea are listening to this play out on their radios. The Tosca's captain can hear it too, and according to later reports, he deliberately ignores every single one. Why? Maybe he thinks the Americans won't actually fire on a civilian cargo ship. Maybe he has orders from the Revolutionary Guards telling him to push through no matter what. Maybe this is meant to be a statement that Iran will not be told where its own ships can and cannot sail. Whatever the reason, after 6 hours of warnings, the Spruance gets back on the radio one last time. Motor vessel Tosca. Motor vessel Tosca. Vacate your engine room. We are prepared to subject you to disabling fire. Silence from the Tosca. The Spruance opens fire. Several rounds from its deck gun punch straight through the Tosca's engine room. The giant ship goes dead in the water. No engines, no power. Nearly 1,000 feet of steel just drifting. Now comes the part that looks like a movie, except it's real and it's being filmed. From the USS Tripoli, a large American assault ship nearby, US Marines launch by helicopter out over the open ocean. CENTCOM releases the footage. You can see the helicopters banking over the water. Then the Marines rappel down ropes, dropping onto the deck of the drifting Tosca one by one. They secure the deck. They move inside. They take control of the ship. The United States now has full custody of the Tosca, the first Iranian cargo vessel seized since the blockade began. The first non military Iranian ship struck by US forces in this entire war. President Trump announces it on social media within hours. He writes that the Tosca tried to get past our naval blockade and it did not go well for them. He adds that Marines are on board and are seeing what's inside. The world watches and waits. What's in the boxes? This is the question nobody can fully answer yet. A team of Marines begins going through container after container aboard the ship. Hundreds of metal boxes stacked stories high, each one a potential secret. What they are looking for and what intelligence sources strongly suspect is on board are materials that serve a double purpose. Things like industrial metals, electronic parts, specialized pipes, items that a civilian company might use, but that a military program desperately needs to. And then there is the rocket fuel question. The Tosca's last stop in China was at a port tied to a specific chemical used in solid rocket propellant. Experts who track ship movements say this wasn't the first time the Tosca had been to that port. It had been making runs between China and Iran for months. The US hasn't publicly said exactly what it found, and that silence, in its own way, is telling. Under international maritime law, a ship caught running a blockade can ultimately be claimed as a prize, essentially kept permanently by the country that seized it. Whether that happens here, nobody knows yet. But the intelligence on board, the shipping manifests, the communication records, the cargo itself, that may be worth more to the US than the ship ever was. Tehran does not take this quietly. Iran calls the seizure an act of piracy. Hours after the Tosca is boarded, Iran announces it will not be sending any negotiators to the peace talks planned for that week in Pakistan. A diplomatic process that had taken weeks to set up cancelled just like that. Iran's foreign minister says the seizure proves the United States was never serious about finding a peaceful solution. The Revolutionary Guards announce that the Strait of Hormuz is back under strict control. Just like that, the brief window of hope, the few days when the strait had been declared open, slams shut again. Ships that had casually begun moving towards the strait pull back. Oil prices spike. The brief feeling that this might be winding down evaporates. One ship, one decision. and the whole fragile structure of diplomacy cracks. Here is the thing about the Tosca that makes it more than just a military incident. It's a test. And what it reveals goes far deeper than whether a cargo ship follows orders. The American blockade is costing Iran roughly $400 million a day in lost income. And experts warn that if it continues much longer, Iran's oil wells could suffer permanent damage. Infrastructure built over decades potentially ruined simply because the oil has nowhere to go. That is the real weapon here, not the missiles, not the Marines rappelling from helicopters. The weapon is economic pain applied slowly until the other side has no choice but to deal. The Tosca was Iran testing the limits, sending a ship through to see if America would actually pull the trigger. The captain, a member of the Revolutionary Guards, ignored 6 hours of warnings. He wasn't confused. He made a choice. And America made one too. Because here is what the US understood. The moment you back down from your own blockade, the moment one ship gets through, every ship tries to get through. The entire strategy collapses. The pressure disappears. Iran gets its oil money back. Diplomacy loses its teeth, and the whole reason for doing this in the first place is gone. So the spruance fired. And now both sides are staring at each other, waiting to see what comes next. The Tosca is still in the Arabian Sea. US officials have discussed towing it to Oman or letting it limp to an Iranian port if it can be repaired. The crew is expected to be returned to Iran. The captain's fate is unknown. The contents of those containers still not fully public. The war is still ongoing. Talks are stalled. The strait is contested. And somewhere in the Arabian Sea, a massive Iranian ship sits disabled and boarded. A physical reminder of how quickly things can escalate when two countries have run out of patience with each other. The Tosca tried to run a blockade that the whole world was watching. It didn't make it. And whatever comes next, whether it's a deal, more fighting, or something nobody has predicted yet, this ship, this moment, this 6 hour standoff on an open ocean will be part of the story of how it all unfolded.